Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Gray Matters Radio. I am your host, Michael Devine. I am America's Counselor. Why America's Counselor? Well, fuck. Have you turned on the news lately? We are literally tearing ourselves apart. And if we ever need a marital counsel, a counselor for the country, it's now. And so I'm going to take that upon myself with Here of Gray Matters. So I'm just going to dive right into it. It's been a couple weeks. I know we had the Memorial Weekend, and plus just a lot has been kind of going on, and I wanted to let things kind of play out. I think sometimes we rush to be first to report something, and sometimes you just got to let something play out so we know how to talk about it, because let's be honest, folks, if everyone's trying to put their 2 cents in, and that hasn't exactly helped us out at all here. So sometimes we got to take a step back, let things kind of play out, and find out what is the real way of talking about something, and that's what we're going to be doing tonight. So obviously we're going to be talking about the protests that are going on around the country. And I'm gonna this is one of those things that are really difficult to kind of talk about. I'm a clinician, and literally, I mean, my job is to talk to people and talk about things that are very difficult. And even the counselor, who is never afraid to talk about anything, is hesitant to talk about race. And it's almost easy to get away with it. We can just pretend that race maybe isn't a big deal. We can try to be colorblind to it and act like we grew up in a different era. But obviously, with everything that's going on right now in our country, race and socioeconomics, it's all a big giant issue, and we can't pretend anymore that it isn't. And naturally, we have to be able to talk to each other, not just from our own worldviews, but other people's worldviews. And I couldn't think of anybody better than to talk about race and talk about just relationships, talk about communication. Than somebody that is one of my best friends, somebody I've known for over 20 some odd years, and me and my friend Leon, we've had all these conversations off the air, but you know what? It's time to start having these conversations with other people, because we have to. And if you trust the person that you're talking about these difficult topics with, I think that's a good place to start. So without further ado, we're going to bring on the inspector, good friend of the show, Mr. Leon Cradle. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How you doing over here?
I'm all right, man. I mean, it's been a little bit of a dumpster fire of a year. Needless to say, I mean, come on, we go from pandemics to, I mean, it seems like we're always in a constant state of, alarmism and fighting, and then a pandemic, and now we got fucking civil unrest. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. I mean, it's
crazy times out there these days. Whew. We go from being locked up for 90 days to everybody out in the street burning everything down that's been closed for the last 90 days.
I know. I mean, honestly, man, I'm going to just dive kind of right in here. I mean, like you just like me, man, you've been watching all this happening on the news, and even though you may not be able to pick up on the video feed, I am white, and let's just throw it out there. I'm white. I mean, I'm Jewish. Okay. I mean, apparently we're all birds of a feather, but it's all right. I'm white, and me watching this, even though I pride myself on being of really trying to not be ethnocentric or only looking at things from my perspective, I can't begin to even weigh in on this. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to start off with is, number one, I mean, dude, honestly, man, what are you seeing out there? And just, I mean, really, what is it that you're even feeling when you're seeing all this happening to the country? And I mean, dude, lay it on me, man.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is that, what we're honestly seeing is how probably a majority of the country has been feeling for a long time. Mm-hmm. And, you can say, everyone talk about the, younger generation and being a little bit more forward thinking and more proactive. But, for a lot of time now, a lot of people have been sitting back, kind of biting their tongues, not being able to say anything. But, because of the nature of where we're at now in this day and age with technology and how information travels, I mean, and people have phones, cell phones, everything's getting recorded. So they're trying to get their voices out there. And, what's starting to happen, and I guess what you're starting to see in the media is that, a lot of people across the country kind of feel the same way.
Yeah. The anger is so, and I know, and this is where it's tough because I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think this whole pandemic has even thrown me for a loop. I mean, I went from like, I want to run for politics. We can promote change, and between the pandemic and just how that thing has been bastardized, and now this, I would be lying if I wouldn't be sitting here going, fuck, like, what can we change? I mean, really, like, what can we change? And when I'm seeing the anger that we're seeing on TV, I mean, it's not even just black people. You see white people joining it, and there is so much anger out there, and that's, to me, is what's getting lost, Leon, is sometimes we get caught up on the means of how we express our anger, and we should be expressed more effectively. But when there's a level of rage, it's all consuming. We've all been there. We've all said and done some really done things in moments of anger and frustration. And this, to me, is no difference, but it's a different type of anger that I don't think I've seen in my lifetime. I've seen it on the news, like in the 60s. Right. I've never seen it. Help me understand as a white guy, Leon. Like, and I know we've talked about race before, but I don't think we've talked about it in this manner. And what is it as a white guy I need to understand about what that anger is? And what do I need to understand? Because I don't think I knew that was there.
I mean, well, number one, racism, hatred. I mean, all that's been there for many, many years. And, it goes back just to coverage and, a lot of people just saying enough's enough and just wanting to expose, the people that, in their everyday life, go through like, hey, I love everybody, but then, behind closed doors, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. But a good way to put it down to is, unless you go, okay, and so this is a good analogy. I was just actually having a conversation with one of my buddies that lives up in Minneapolis, kind of actually pretty close to where everything happened, white dude, cool. I mean, everyone's cool, whatever. People are people. And I put it like this. I said, because he said his comment was that he has, other black friends that are making these posts on Facebook saying, hey, you're white, I don't want to hear what you got to say because you have, no idea what we're feeling or what we're thinking or what it's like to be. A good terminology is, think about you going to a bar, right? How many times have you walked into a bar? It could be a bar you've never been to in your life, and you walk in and all of a sudden it's like the record skip, like, hey, who's this guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, is he supposed to be in here? But as a, black male, unless you're going, in the inner city or, a place that's predominantly, predominantly black people in there, more urban bar or stature, you'll never have that. You'll walk in and normally you're one of a few sprinkled in there. So, until, people get out there and really start seeing that, some of us do feel like all eyes are always on you. You walk in somewhere, someone's always looking at you, thinking you're going to do something wrong. I mean, hell, I've walked through the parking lot and, ladies have locked their car doors, older ladies, so it's just a different time. And it is about time for people to really start having the conversation, not be so sensitive. I mean, yes, we all have feelings, and, things do hurt people's feelings, and things can, it's like text messaging, you can text something, you have no idea how the context they meant it. It might come off totally wrong and they might have been actually giving you a compliment, but the way you read it, it might be interpreted as insult, but it's just open dialogue. And until people start having those hard, honest conversations, nothing's ever going to change.
What is your opinion as to like why those conversations don't happen? I got my own little theories, but I'm curious to hear yours as to why have those conversations not happen?
Oh, because I mean, a little bit of it, I think, is because you're showing a little bitch assness if you actually show that you want to, that you actually care and you're kind of soft-hearted. A lot of people have to go through life, pretending to be tougher than they actually are, or pretending to be richer than they actually are. I mean, a lot of people have to kind of be a chameleon out there in the real world because they may feel, or people do feel it, that oh, you're not on my level if you don't conform and think this way or do these things.
One of the things I've always kind of thought, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this one, is that one of the reasons why white people a lot of times don't really have these conversations, and maybe that's like what you're getting at, it's kind of like, oh, like you just showed up, like you wonder why I'm a little sketchy kind of it, is that because white people realize that I don't think this is solely a race issue. I think a lot of it's race. Do not get me wrong. But it's like what started off like maybe 100 years ago, a purely just fucking let's just keep people down and let's consistently do that. There was a shift in the nation after the civil rights movement, and it seems like what was more purely using economic power to keep black people down because of racism. It seems like it is more about socioeconomics now, keeping people down. Because that's the sense that I almost get when I talk with people, is that it's less race. Now, there are some straight up fucking racists out there, don't get me wrong.
All right.
Do you think it's almost a misnomer to only be talking about the race part to it? And because I don't hear anyone talking about the socioeconomics as much as they are about the race issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, because if you talk about race, black, white, then that's something that can drive to a core. You can get to a lot of masses when you bring that wedge in between everybody. But I was even having a conversation at the barbershop or somewhere the other day, just in everyday life, and it comes down to a little bit of education. Until someone tells you, that, hey, you go over here and you take this job, it might be a little bit harder, whatever, you might have to change some kind of thing or learn a new skill. But overall, in the long term, between the healthcare benefits and all this stuff, I mean, it's actually giving the information back to people. Because I mean, if you keep, a lot of people stay where they're at because they don't know any better. If you live here in Central Ohio and you never leave Central Ohio, so you just see the Olentangy River, the Scioto, 270, I-71. That's all you ever see. And then, whoa, you drive down to, Hocking Hills, and you start seeing, oh, what we got, like what looks like mountains. They're hills. People say they're mountains, but they're hills. But you get down there, you see all those trees and, the rolling roads and, backcountry open air. You would never think that, you would never know that was there if you never left where you were from, So that's why it's good to meet a lot of different people. We talk about it all the time, that with some other friends that, we grew up with a lot of different people. I mean, people from, Asian countries, Egyptians, I mean, a whole slew of people we grew up with at a young age. So we were multicultural and learned a lot of different things from a lot of different ways of life. And that's what kind of, puts that seed in there, and you want to travel and see what's out there. I mean, that's what life's about. Life's about, living, learning, passing it on, seeing some sights, telling some stories.
Yeah. And I think you said such an important thing. And I really think it's at one of the biggest crux of the problem is that for so many people in this country, they have absolutely no idea what it's like to not have a lot. And I'm not talking, there are variations of not having a lot. Right. And I think for some people, like, as you said, like when they've never left their block, they've never left their city, like they don't have a car. No one has a car. Like when Katrina happened, the one thing that people are like, why they just didn't leave? And it's like, do you not understand? There's a lot of people in this country who have no transportation. They live paycheck to paycheck. No one has that ability. People don't get that. And I think that is one big part of the issue, is that people assume they know what it's like. They assume what it's like for people. When I remember, gosh, this is it was when I was in grad school, and I was talking to a young black kid. We did community mental health, so we did free mental health for the community, and I was talking to him about like college, and he's like, "Man, I can't ever afford college." I'm like, "Dude," I go, don't take this the wrong way. I go, but dude, I go, you live in South Dallas, all right? You're black, you don't got a lot of money. I go, dude, like you're gonna be able to get loans, grants. He's like,
grants, all kinds of
dude,
stuff, right?
what is that? He had no idea there was even such thing as student loans, and it was the coolest thing because this is like about like, gosh, this was like maybe 4 years ago. I got an email from him letting me know what he was up to, and he just got done graduating from college, and I was just like, my wife's always telling me like, hey, like you have an effect, like you don't realize that role. But like to me, well, one hand, it's like, wow, that's amazing that someone didn't know that. It's so overwhelming to go, there's so many people don't know, and so many people who are making decisions that are affecting, and the reason why people are in certain positions don't know, and they think they do. And that
misinformation.
Yeah. And that's where I really think, Leon, and I want your just blunt, honest opinion on it, man, is that to me, I think the reason why people like me, white people that obviously are like not racist, we care about, the black community, we care about what's going on, is that we care to the point until we actually have to change our way of living. And that's the thing is, I think a lot of us don't want to, and I think we're too afraid to admit that every single one of us, the wealthy, everybody's going to have to change how they live their lives. If we're really...
See that, and that feeling, what you just said right there, how you feel, I mean, think about that, like in the whole, in any non-race community, a feeling, having that sense of feeling that what they're bringing to the table's not equal or good as to what, a white person's doing. I mean, you know what I mean? Fact of the matter. I mean, because, some people will say, well, I can't wear my, starter jersey and my baggy, camouflage pants to the club, you know what I'm saying? Because it's too urban, They want you to change those and put on some, Dockers and some Bob Hopes, and a little collared shirt like you're going to the beach and, come to the club. I mean, but that's the same thing. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's how a lot of people that are out there protesting right now kind of feel. It's like, okay, you want me to change my whole entire way of life to your thinking, but yet, that's kind of stripping people from, their sense of identity or a sense of culture. There's not too many people from, the suburbs that are going to the inner cities and, partaking in their nice, African restaurants or, fish store, fish restaurants. I mean, but, they know plenty of them, plenty of people from the outside rural communities are coming into there and doing the shopping and all that stuff, so it's like, oh, no, I support you coming here and spending your greenbacks here, but yet I won't come and, support your business and make sure that you guys, are thriving and doing good too. And that's,
it's like, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to be
right?
uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, you don't.
And that's, I think if we can at least all admit as a white culture, and just not even a white culture, just as a culture of people of haves, that it's like, it's like we don't really necessarily want to bring up some of these things subconsciously speaking, because I think we all know we would have to do some things. And I think even more than that, what we'd have to do to change the world, the country, it's so daunting and overwhelming. It's like, can I even make that difference? And it's easy just to go living on your life. And it seems like that's what these protests and the anger, what's about, is like, I'm not allowing you to go back and live your life the way that it was. Like, I've tried giving you your chance. We've been sucking this down, pushing it down. And then, yes, a spark happened and boom, right? And that to me seems like maybe the dynamic, that's what all this is about. And then that's maybe even some of the anger, in my opinion, of why, as you said, you guys are just now showing up. Black Lives Matter. But what's going to happen 2 weeks from now when it's not trendy on Instagram to be in a protest? Are you going to be doing anything to be making any sizable change? Are you going to go back to your job, go back to your college, go back to your suburbs, go back to your loft, and you're going to go back to doing your shit? I'm going to go back to my fucked up neighborhood, and my reality is going to be the same. If not, it's fucking worse because of coronavirus. Yeah. Would you say, is that a fair summation of what all this is about?
Yeah, I mean, well, because if you look at it, it obviously started because, Floyd, innocent I mean, not doing it possibly passing a fake $20 bill.
Mind you, I've been questioned on a $20 bill before, and it was fucking the real McCoy. Like, so
I mean, a $20 bill.
Yeah,
$20 bill.
Really? It's like,
you know what I'm saying? Really? I mean, hell, you know what I'm saying? Eat that 20. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. But still, the whole fact of the matter is, I think it all kind of stemmed from that. And then once, the nation, the country, I mean, hell, the world, they've been protesting around the world, like in places you would think they wouldn't be protesting about that, but they're talking about it. And it's because there are, there's a lot of mixed race, mixed religions, across the world. I mean, and everyone kind of lives in kind of that same kind of premise. You know what I'm saying? That if you have a tanner or darker colored skin, someone somewhere out there in life might think that they're better than you. You know what I mean?
It's where it's interesting who it's resonating with, but it's almost like it seems like it's a catch-22 because it's resonating, but it's only going to resonate for a news cycle. And that's when you're looking at like, okay, like what really needs to change? This is where I think it's tough as a white guy, and I give a good couple examples. Van Jones. I love Van Jones. I love him because, man, he sits down with anybody and he'll just lay it straight. I mean, I wish the guy would run for president, but I think he's burned out because he got the shaft when he was HUD secretary. But one of the things he kind of said was like, listen, man, it's like inside every white person's brain is like a virus, and it's like, and that virus is like it's like a race that, like, where it's like you can have best friends, you cannot think you have a racist bone in your body, but if you're walking by yourself on a block by yourself and you happen to see a well-built black guy that you don't recognize in your neighborhood, what are you going to do? What is your first thought you're going to have? And when you look at that, and then I've seen a lot of memes of like, dear white people, and it's like it's making fun of a lot of these white folks that are going out buying like Black Lives Matter shirts and signs, and you get the very distinct sense it's like it's not going over the best of way, and I think I understand it a lot more. But this is the conundrum. Then we have two scenarios that are playing out now. Number one, the people that want to help, I think we're scared. I don't think we know what to do. Like, literally, I'm that was the one thing where I really wanted to close our show off, is like going, what is it as somebody that you obviously know cares a lot about this? What is it that we need to do? Like, obviously, me volunteering at the Huckleberry House, me working with people of low income. It's like, it's like an easy way of saying I'm giving back, but that's not working. What is it that we need to be doing? What can we be doing? And what can we do to stop that kind of dynamic where like people like me are almost like, is it almost embarrassing? Is it almost like insulting to go, you need my help? And then the second part to this, Leon, and this is, I think the bigger issue of this is that the way I look at it is the changes we need to make happen. It's a systemic issue. Education is horrendous in inner cities in America. Everything begins and ends with education. I'm talking after school programs, mental health care, literally, we need to invest in infrastructure, okay? And the thing is, to do that, we need rich white people. Let's be honest. We need rich white people to have so much empathy that they're willing to change their lives, their lifestyles, to give money to people that they don't even know, that has no feedback like in their direct life, just out of the empathy and goodness of their hearts. We need those people. The problem is the very people we need to convince the most, it seems like the looting has had the opposite effect. Dehumanizing people, calling them thugs, calling them animals, looting, not protesting. We're not even talking about George Floyd anymore. Like, so what is it, and it's a big two-part question, but like, what is it that white people can do, and what can we do to stop this dynamic of the looting and the opposite effect that it's having on the people we need to convince the most?
I mean, well, I don't think it even comes down to a that the rich white people have to open up their wallets and have that compassion, because once again, if you give someone $10,000 that doesn't know what to do with $10,000,
Yeah.
That $10,000 is gone.
Exactly.
I mean, as soon as you hand it to them, I mean, hell, they already spent it. If they knew they were getting a $10,000 check,
waste. There's a reason why poor people are poor. They do the same damn shit all the time, right?
That's
so
what I'm saying. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So like a lot of it just comes down to just telling people really how to save, maximize their money, live within their means. I mean, I remember, to say early adulthood, 18 to, whatever, living paycheck to paycheck, hey, maybe pay a little bit of this bill, skip this one this month, you know what I mean? All those things. I mean, but there came a time when, had a little birdie that came to my ear and said, hey, look, you do this, this, and this will set you up to be great, in the long run, so a lot of it just like you said, I mean, it's just having information, but it's not like my household is like, a billionaire, millionaire, 100,000-year, household, but we do our fair share of giving back. You know what I'm saying? Donating money when we can donate money, it's not always about donating money. I mean, a lot of this stuff comes down to just even donating your time. As simple as that. I mean, it's amazing, being a coach and talking to, younger kids these days and hearing like even their take on a lot of these things. Like, you're talking about the one kid that didn't know that there's Pell Grants and student loans that he could get. I mean, most of the kids, I talk to a lot, they're like, oh, well, my only way to go to college is to get this athletic scholarship. It's like, nah, dude, you're smart enough, you know what I'm saying, that you could even get, if you study up a little bit, you get a higher ACT, SAT score. I mean, you can get some, education money. I said, it doesn't have to come down to athletics or you breaking your body up to go better yourself. You know what I mean? And a lot of us, didn't get that tutelage because, our parents, our grandparents didn't have that knowledge to tell it, but it really just comes down to time, getting education out there, and really teaching them. I mean, this coronavirus, this virus has been crazy in the aspect of, me having to kind of learn what teachers do every day. Like teachers are severely underpaid for what they do.
Fucking underpaid,
yo,
like,
I mean,
like
I got one monster that's in school right now, and me having teacher Mr. Cradle over here, it was danger zone, man. It was crazy. But to your question, they just got to get the information out there to people. And it is having a reverse effect. I don't even think I think the looting has zero to do with the Floyd. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Some people out there looked at this and said, whoever it is, I don't know whoever it is, they took this as an opportunity to go out here, hey, break in, steal some stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, hell, there was some dude stealing, there's a white guy coming out of Target with a car seat. You know what I'm saying? At least he was thinking about somebody else other than himself. He had a car seat. Someone must have really needed it.
I totally think that this thing has been taken over by multiple groups. I do think anti-fascist people are looking at this as a reason is to burn the whole motherfucking thing down. I do think there's a lot of white supremacists that are doing it to take away from what really happened. And that's the fucked up thing, is that we're being socially engineered to not care about each other. And then the pandemic, and then this now, when we need empathy the most to solve problems, because you have to have empathy to make those sacrifices, we don't have it. We can't even access it when we want to. And that, to me, is the saddest thing about this.
Is that because we're desensitized, a little bit as a society now? Because of what's on TV, the shows we watch. I mean, everything's a reality TV show now. You know what I'm saying? Like, or a drama, some kind of, fictional, non-fictional crime drama. There's a lot of things that are different than 20, 30 years ago when we were kids growing up. I mean, we were watching, the Road Runner, Bugs Bunny, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different time nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, it might sound conspiratorial, but you have to look at it. The only way that if there is a deep state, you got to look at if you're coming up with a plan of like, hey, if I were to do it, how would I do it? Well, number one, you have to have it to where even when you're in power, you got to have it to where you don't have enough people that would actually go after you, right? So how do you do that? You distract them. You create the illusion of a Democrats, Republicans. You pit people against each other as they're the enemy. So that way, then the people that are really in charge, they're blameless. And so to make all this work, once again, in our little hypothesis, you have to make it and use social engineering with social media. Everything you know about psychology is if you get people to be angry and think about yourself, literally in our brain, like it's like a switch. It's two parts of our brain, the part of our brain where we think about other people, the part of our brain where we think about ourselves. We use the research to go, oh, so when people are depressed, when they get suicidal, why is it they don't think about, oh, wow, they're ruining the lives of their therapist and the 17 people in their lives by killing themselves, right? Mm-hmm. It's because they get so unhappy, they're so consumed with ending their own pain. We call it morose narcissism, that we lose the ability to have empathy and think about how something is going to affect somebody else. Versus when we found out when people are depressed, we have them do things for other people. It gets them out of that loop and it starts breaking them out of that depression because they start seeing things differently. They've taken all the research of how we can use it to help people. They did how to stay in power and how to keep watching. And so it's always about conjuring up emotions that make it to where you're only thinking about me. Think about the pandemic. It was, you can't tell me what to do. I'm an American. You can't tell me my freedom. Don't infringe upon my, but your freedom infringing but might actually make other people sick. It don't matter. Don't tell me what to do. That's just how it is. That's how America always is. So you can't massage and manipulate and socially engineer the human psyche to get away with everything.